Oh, dude, if you had asked me that question a few years ago, I would have given you a much different response. But
Injuries are a big part of everyone's process, unfortunately.
we ended up being in the hospital for 9 days.
Oh, what'd you do?
On my third
What?
attempt squat, lost my balance with 750 pounds on the bar
Huh.
and ended up rupturing both my quad tendons.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah. I got into training myself because I was a fat kid growing up, and I just wanted to get a date.
Did you get the date?
I always joke with her that my 15-year-old self would give me the biggest high five right now. I think also a lot of people neglect the day-to-day activities that they could be doing to keep them moving well and feeling good.
That's what people miss. Going to the gym is its own cure for anxiety. Paul, welcome to Reppin Fitness. It's Brick.
What's up, Brick? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought I had you scheduled a couple weeks ago. What happened?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I actually competed in a powerlifting meet on July 13th.
Nice.
And not so nice. On my third
Well-
attempt squat, lost my balance with 750 pounds on the bar
Huh.
and ended up rupturing both my quad tendons.
What'd you do?
So I lost my balance kind of onto my heels, and then as soon as I went to push, felt two really loud pops and ended up dumping the bar behind me. Was rushed off to the hospital and then ended up having surgery the next day to repair the injury.
Oh, man. What was that like? How much pain did you feel from that?
Honestly, it didn't hurt at all.
No?
No, it was obviously I'm sure there was a ton of adrenaline, but
Right.
there was really no pain, and I was very calm, surprisingly. And I was lucky enough that the head judge was a firefighter. One of the women that was watching was a paramedic, so they were both very calm and kind of guided me through it. We called the ambulance, and it was there within like 10-15 minutes.
Wow. So, you're back home now.
Yep.
How long were you in the hospital?
We ended up being in the hospital for 9 days.
Oh,
My mother-in-law came to pick us up. She drove like 2 hours to pick us up, 7 hours back to Ottawa, slept, woke up, took our 3 dogs back to Toronto with her. So she ended up driving about 16 hours in 2 days just to make sure that we were good.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's glad. It's a good
amazing
thing.
support.
Yeah, it's great to have that type of support system in your life. I'm glad you have it, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be here right now,
Nope.
and we wouldn't be able to do this. But
Yeah.
Injuries are a big part of everyone's process, unfortunately. You can't predict them. You just never know what's going to happen, and it can derail your fitness journey. Now, before we get into some of the practical tips in your mind of what people should do, what's going on for you? What's the recovery process like now for you?
So as a baseline, the recovery from this sort of injury, if it was only one side, I probably would be in crutches and be able to slowly start to put weight on my leg. But because it's both legs, they told me 6 weeks non-weight bearing, which means that essentially I am not allowed to put any weight on my feet. Being the person that I am, I've kind of toyed around with it. And I mean, transferring to to go to the bathroom or transferring into my wheelchair, or even transferring into the car, I have to put weight on my feet to be able to do that. So I don't have any pain right now. We're 3.5 weeks in. I don't have any pain. My function is way ahead of schedule because of all the things I've been doing. Range of motion is supposed to be 20 degrees every 2 weeks, but I've already got 40 degrees range of motion very comfortably. and I could probably push it further. But I'm trying to be smart. But it's 6 weeks non-weight bearing, and then they get you on either crutches or in a walker, and you're just slowly starting to reintegrate walking into your day-to-day life. So like little things, like I haven't had a shower in 3.5 weeks. My wife will take me out to the front steps and like hose me down. So it's like little things that we take for granted are definitely a
Right.
challenge because our house is 2 stories and our shower's on the second floor, so I can't go up the stairs.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Wow. I I've never heard anything like this.
it happens, man. You try to push your limits and try to achieve things that your body fights against you for. And to be honest, this competition that I was doing and the weight that I hurt myself with, I've done this weight like probably 30, 40
Right.
times in my life. So it wasn't something that I was expecting by any means. But when you're pushing limits and you're lifting weights, 750 pounds, if you're off by an inch, you're off by a mile, and
Right.
catastrophe can happen. So it's a risk that I accepted when I started pushing my body. And so the way I look at it is there's two things that come to mind. The first is
No.
you accept the risk. So if you're going to say, I accept the risk, and that risk comes true, which it will, like the weights always
Right.
win, whether it's a catastrophic injury like mine, or whether it's 30, 40, 50 years down the line and you have to get a joint replacement or some sort of chronic issue, the weights will always win.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to pay the bill when the bill comes due. So that's part of it.
Oh,
The other part is,
I like that. I like everything you're saying there.
yeah, man, like
That's
the other
great.
the other part of it is, and my dad said this to me. He said it to me as a joke. When I got home, my family met me at the house, and my dad said, "Wow, you really got your money's worth." And I was like,
Huh.
"Huh." Well, I mean, if you look at it in the sense of, okay, I'm 6 weeks without walking, but if
Right.
I hadn't have lifted weights, competed in powerlifting, and been one of the best in the world at one time, I wouldn't have my home. I wouldn't have my business. I wouldn't have our income, our freedom, the amazing community of friends that we have. I wouldn't have met my wife. So
Right.
without
Right.
weight training, I wouldn't have any of the things that I enjoy on a daily basis. So if this is the price that I have to pay for that, I did definitely get my money's worth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a better outlook to have on the situation too. Now,
For sure.
you had mentioned, if you're off by an inch, you're actually off by a mile, right? And that weight wasn't something you're not too unfamiliar with. Now, I'm sure if you're anything like Brick, you've run through what happened over and over and how you could do something different to have avoided it. But sometimes you just can't. Sometimes it just happens, especially when you're lifting that heavy.
Totally.
Now, what do you think are some common mistakes that you see athletes make that lead to injuries? And how can they be avoided?
So I want to say first that my my injury was a complete accident.
Okay.
But looking back, I've had a history of knee pain forever. Like since I played sports, I played college basketball, I played football. Um, and even through the years of powerlifting, I have had knee pain on and off. And the injury that I had was actually it's called an avulsion fracture, where the tendon actually
Oh.
rips bone off of my kneecap. So my tendon itself didn't actually rip. I actually fractured my patella,
Oh.
and with the piece that fractured was actually a bone spur. So when you look at it, you could say, oh, if Paul took better care of his knees and he didn't, push through this pain and stuff like that, maybe he wouldn't have had this injury. To which I reply, I literally fell with 750 pounds on my back. I
Right.
don't think anything would have saved me. But on that note, I do think in a lot of cases, people do push through pain, sometimes too much. But in that same breath, if you're competing at a high level in anything, you're going to be in pain,
Yeah.
right?
Can
Pushing
you
limits
can you
is painful.
let me stop you for a sec. Can you define pain? What exactly do you mean? You were saying that you work through pain in your knees. Are we talking things like, when you extend your knee, it cracks, or are you talking actual pain happening?
We're talking like pain. Pain would be discomfort to the point that it impacts your ability to produce force, and discomfort to the point where it impacts your ability to perform the movement with the technique that you need to perform. So if
Uh,
you're, let's use the squat, for example. If you have to squat with a different pattern, shifting into one hip or, rotating in a certain direction just to be able to run away from that pain, I would say that that's pain. If you are not able to lift the weights that you need to lift because of neurological inhibition, that's pain.
oh,
You're going to have discomfort. Like nothing about having 700, 800 pounds on your back
oh,
feels good,
right, right.
but you should be able to perform the movement with the requisite patterns and force production that you need to. And I like the number of sessions that I've had in my career. Like I competed in powerlifting for 15 years.
Wow.
And at one point I had the sixth heaviest squat ever performed in my weight class.
How much was that?
800 pounds at 220
Oh,
pounds.
wow.
So at that time, there was only ever six people in the history of the sport who were strong, five people in the history of the
Unbelievable.
sport who were stronger than me.
Yeah.
But when I was training for that competition, I had to use like icy hot cream on my knees every training
Oh,
session. I had to do, an hour of mobility every day just to be able to bend my knees and get down. If you asked me to like get down to the floor and then stand back up, it would probably take me 3 or 4 minutes. But I
oh,
was super strong. So when I look at like this injury in specific and I say, could I have managed my knee issues better? I actually felt better going into this meet than I have in most of the previous meets that I've ever done.
wow. Okay.
So so when we look at like indicators of injury, I wouldn't even put my knee issues in the same ballpark as what happened to me. But I do think some people push through pain, especially if they are motivated to go to that place that they've never been before, maybe set
Right.
world records, maybe set provincial records or state records and things like that. That external motivation might push them to uh, try to lift through pain. I think also a lot of people neglect the day-to-day activities that they could be doing to keep them
Oh, yeah.
moving well and feeling good. Things like getting 8 to 10,000 steps a day, things like
Yep.
taking care of your nutrition, getting enough sleep, hydrating, the basics, the non-sexy stuff. I
Yep.
think a lot of people ignore that.
Well, you mentioned, walking,
Hmm.
because one of the things I like to preach is steps are reps too. You got to get them in.
For sure.
And a lot of people, they sometimes make the mistake. And I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are. Do you consider walking exercise, or is it a prerequisite to exercise?
That's a good question. I think it can be both. I think can be
Right.
dependent on what your goals are. If your goals are to be the most fit individual possible, steps are just a prerequisite to life. You should get
Right,
as many
right.
steps as you possibly can every day. Try to move as much as you can.
That's what
If
I'm saying.
you're if you're a power lifter or a strength athlete, doing too much cardiovascular activity can have a negative effect on your performance. So you
Oh,
want to be weary.
that's a good
And
point.
in that instance, I would say, yeah, steps are a form of physical activity. And usually you're dealing with larger individuals. So going for, a 30-minute walk for, even for myself, like I'm a very aerobically fit person. I do cardio, or I was doing cardio most days. My heart rate on a walk might be 98, 100, 105, maybe on a really hot day. But for some of my super heavyweight or, 275-pound lifters, going for a walk might get their heart rate to 120, 130 beats per minute just because they're so
Oh,
large.
is that
And at
okay?
that's okay. They're just big people,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Um, they're big people who are carrying a lot of mass. And at that point, you're looking at walking as zone two cardiovascular activity. So what's ultimately the goal? I think for most of my clients are lifestyle clients. They just like to
Right.
lift weights and they want to look great. So for them, I use steps as kind of a baseline health measure. Like we are
Right.
going to get
Right.
at least 8,000 steps a day. And then I will do cardiovascular activity with them on top of that, whether it be in the form of uh, structured, steady state, zone two cardio, maybe some interval training, maybe some mixed modality like kettlebells, air bike, skier, rower, different types of odd objects, farmers carries, things like that, because they're fun and moving your body in different ways should be part of your training. But to answer your question more succinctly, I think in general, steps should be a prerequisite to living your daily life. And then some cardiovascular activity should be layered up on top of that to make sure that your heart is as healthy as possible.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, you said a lot of your clients, they're lifestyle clients, and I got to imagine one of the first questions you ask a new client is what their day-to-day life is like. If they're
Absolutely.
on their feet at a job, they're
Mm-hmm.
working in a warehouse, they might be walking around already. They don't need as many steps in their day because they're already getting them. Now you're coaching, you're at Master Athletic Performance.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
how would you describe your training philosophy and your approach to strength training with your clients?
I'd say it's very, very much individual.
Right, right.
If I had to categorize it into one, maybe programming style, I would probably say concurrent periodization. So within any discipline, whether it be a lifestyle client who just wants to look jacked, be healthy, perform well, or an athlete who's competing in a sport, because I still train some college football players. I also train a few Navy SEALs.
Whoa!
These are individuals who have to be strong, they have to be in good condition, and they also have to be functioning at a high level. So when you subscribe to more of a concurrent method of periodization or concurrent training model, you allocate resources within a training session, within a training week, and within a training block towards strength, hypertrophy, power, and endurance, both lactic and alactic. So you're getting all of your energy systems worked within an entire week, but you're prioritizing them in a way where they don't interfere with one another. Um, and that comes from my background.
Interesting.
So my background is in collegiate strength and conditioning. So I
Wow.
was working primarily with athletes for the majority of my career. And it's the model, like every athlete needs to be big, strong, fast, and conditioned. So if you can, as opposed to the old methodology where hypertrophy, then strength, then power, hypertrophy, then strength, then power, you're essentially layering all those qualities on top of one another and organizing them within a week to be able to leverage each one of them properly.
What motivated you to become a coach?
So I got into training myself because I was a fat kid growing up, and
Oh,
I just
oh,
wanted to get a date. So,
oh.
and I was
How'd it
always
go?
athletic.
Did you
I
get the
got it.
date?
I got a date. Yep, I got a date.
Nice, nice, nice.
Um, and I mess with my wife because for people who don't know, my wife is a IFBB Pro wellness competitor, and
Whoa.
she is drop dead gorgeous. So I always joke with her that my 15-year-old self would give me the biggest high five right now.
Yeah, you
But
hear that? You hear that there, 15-year-olds? All you gotta do, all you gotta do is power lift.
get the
Then
reps.
to get those reps, now you got the girls or the
There you go.
guys, whatever you're going for.
Exactly. But and so I played college basketball, and then after my first year playing college basketball, I moved over to football. And my first off season, I suffered a meniscus tear and had to have surgery.
Oh,
Uh,
oh,
so it was during that rehab process where I really fell in love with the science of training, um,
yeah.
the rehab process, return to sport, and that's when I knew I wanted to work with college athletes. So after I graduated, so that was in my third year. After my fourth year, I graduated. I was working as a personal trainer. I
Okay.
was working as a personal trainer at a supplement shop. I worked at a bar on the weekends as a bouncer. And I did a couple other odd jobs to try and save money because I secured myself an internship at the University of South Florida.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. South Florida is 24,000 kilometers away. Um,
It's a lot
and
of steps.
it's a lot of steps. I moved there in May of 2010 and was in the US until 2014,
Oh, wow.
working in three different capacities in strength and conditioning.
Jeez.
My motivation for coaching now, and I think has been my motivation all along, I just never really put words to it, The motto for the companies that I run, both Master Athletic Performance and Coaches Corner University,
Yeah.
is to raise the bar. So I want to teach people
Nice.
to use training, nutrition as a means to raise the bar for themselves and be the best version of themselves, as I have
That's
used
great.
it the same for myself. Like I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't have the life that I live without lifting weights, because lifting
Right.
weights was the way that I was able to improve upon myself. And
Me
so
too.
we try to teach all of our clients and athletes to do the same.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I admire that you're out there getting degrees because I don't know if you know, but Brick is currently studying for his own. I'm getting my NASM certification here in the United
Nice.
States.
That's a
Yeah, I
great
just want to,
certification.
yeah, it's just like you said. I'm starting to fall in love with the science behind all this. It's interesting to hear how the human body works. I think I know more than most humans.
You probably do.
They're just unmotivated. Unmotivated. That's the word. Not dumb. Unmotivated.
Unmotivated. They're ignorant to it because they don't feel that it applies to them or that it's important to
Right,
them.
right,
But I think the more people grow to understand the beauty of the human body and what it can
right.
accomplish, and how closely linked your physical health is to your mental health, especially in this day and age of mental health crisis, and the rampant nature of anxiety, depression, things of
Yeah.
that nature. If people put a little bit more energy into the physical aspect of their life, I think they would net benefit on the mental health side as well, for sure.
Right. And other than the competition, I
Hmm.
gotta imagine anytime you leave the gym, you're not leaving angry. You got a lot
No.
of it out of you, you know?
Oh,
That's what people
absolutely.
miss. Going to the gym is its own cure for anxiety.
Yeah, I always say that it's a phenomenal coping strategy, but
Right?
it's not a replacement for therapy. Like if you look
No,
at the
no, no.
research, I'm a big research guy. So
Yeah.
if you look at the research
Let's
on
research. Let's research. What you
so
got?
if you look at the research on exercise and mental health, it is as effective as pharmaceuticals. So
Yeah.
in terms of improving your mood, it is as effective, but the gold standard for mental health care still involves therapy. Because while you are going to be managing your emotions and improving your mood a little bit better, being able to talk through the issues that you're working on, and to have kind of that third party unbiased opinion put
Right.
back upon you, especially in the context of cognitive behavioral therapy or motivational interviewing or even traditional psychotherapy, talk therapy, it's tremendously valuable. Myself, I've been in therapy since 2019, uh,
Oh.
regularly. Not because I have any sort of anxiety disorder or anything like that,
Right.
but because for me, it's a phenomenal way to check in with myself, make sure that I'm on solid footing, and uh, I think it's made me a better version of myself and allowed me to understand myself to a higher degree.
Yeah, and I got to agree because I think the way I use it is I got a lot of friends that get annoyed when Brick comes in and he's like, "Ah, I didn't get that lift today," and I just start talking about that. But now I just dump all of that on my therapist. This way, it's not affecting my friendships, my relationships, because I think sometimes people just put too much on their friends when they could just dump on somebody who gets paid for it, gets that bag, you know?
It's true. It's a phenomenal way to look at it. I will say though that, using myself as an example, having a partner who I can be open and honest with about the way that I'm
Right.
feeling, and that is a tremendous way to fortify a relationship with somebody. As long
Well,
as
hey,
it's not dumping on them, because it's not their responsibility.
yeah, I mean, we're not all so fortunate to date bodybuilding bombshells
It's
like
true.
you. So,
That's true.
but hey, you mentioned Coach's Corner University. Now,
Yeah.
that's also a podcast, right?
Yep, I have my own podcast, Coaches Corner University, where I interview other coaches and professionals within the industry.
What do you guys talk
Coaches,
about?
anything. So
Okay, okay.
we've had discussions about rehabilitation. We've had discussions about strength training, hypertrophy, bodybuilding, powerlifting, training for sport, training for rehab. Uh, I'm pretty lucky with the network that I've accumulated over the last 20 years of coaching to have so many amazing individuals to chat with. The platform Coaches Corner University was founded on my desire to provide continuing education to people once they've finished their degrees, and how you can apply the research to the real world and to the person in front of you. So Coaches Corner University has a platform. We have close to 200 hours of continuing education lecture content.
Whoa. Where's this at?
It's at coachescorneru.com.
This is Reppin Fitness, so we got to talk about reps.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're at the gym, what rep ranges do you think you got to stay in? Where are you at?
Oh, dude, if you had asked me that question a few years ago, I would have given you a much different response. But I will say,
What was it? What would you say? What would you have said a couple years ago?
I would have probably said anything less than 12.
Whoa. Okay. How's
Where
that
I
changed?
where I found the most success for me personally and for my clients is to have varied rep ranges and to be strong within all the rep ranges, anywhere from 1 to 30 reps.
1 to
So
30.
yeah, I've even
Whoa.
had some of my
1 to
clients do
30.
sets of, 50 to 75 reps.
You kidding me?
No,
I
there's
gotta get on that program. I love it. I also want one of those pants, so I don't have to go to the bathroom anymore.
yeah, dude, this thing's sweet. I think I got, you want to talk about steps? I think the other day I got 8 steps all day.
8 steps?
8 steps.
Well, hey, everyone watching right now, you got to get more than Paul. You got to get more steps than Paul today. Leave a comment. Let us know when you do. Come on. It's not that hard. Paul
that
got
hard.
8 with no legs. His legs are not working. It's incredible. Anyways, Paul, thanks for being a guest. We're going to end this on a good note for everyone watching at home. What's one piece of advice you would give someone starting their fitness journey?
To find something that you really enjoy and just do it to the best of your abilities. I think a lot of our clients that come to us that are more so beginner feel like there is some sort of recipe of things that they have to do, when in general it just comes down to, what do you actually enjoy doing? What are things that you could see yourself doing on a daily basis and do consistently, and then just do that. You don't have to weight train every day. You don't have to do yoga. You don't have to run. You don't have to cycle. You don't have to do anything. Are there benefits to every single one of these modalities? Absolutely. But find the ones that you really enjoy. Do those to the best of your abilities. And once training becomes a habit, and once nutrition becomes a habit, then you can start to layer things on top of it. But just start slow.
That's great. Start slow, get somewhere, and then add more. That's great
Add some
advice.
reps.
Add those reps. But hey, thanks for joining me on Reppin Fitness.
My pleasure.
Now, let's go get those reps.